Before I drop episode 1 on you, I feel like it's important that you get to know me a little bit. So, welcome to the pre-launch episode of Nice-ish, where I let you into my world and offer up some information about myself that will serve as a foundation, a prerequisite, if I may, to this podcast. Interviewing me today is none other than Bay, my travel buddy, my good friend them, and she's a professional journalist, Miss Melissa Rose Cooper. So I enlisted the help of Melissa in addition to the help of my social media followers to get this episode up and popping. So it's important for you to know that all the questions that she asked me are coming from my followers. Shout out to everybody who engaged and offered up some questions for me to respond to. Let me start the Tingz.
Okay, Shaw, so tell us all about your Caribbean roots and your upbringing.
I was born in Boston. Shout out to Dorchester, Coppin Square area. Big up yourself, Brighton High Bengals. But no, I was born in Boston to a mother who hails from the Turks and Caicos Islands, Grand Turk to be specific, over back, holla, and a father who is from Tortola, British Virgin Islands. And shortly after I was born, a couple months after, I went to Turks with my aunt, I believe, and my grandmother, who I basically was with for the earlier part of life down there in Grand Turk. And my mother will tell you that basically the only reason why I came back to the States is because I guess I started to not remember her. And she would say, "Oh, come to mommy," and I'd be like, you're not my mom." And so she'll tell that story, and so that's just, she was like, "Oh no, you're coming and you're staying with me." So that's my kind of upbringing in a nutshell. I spent a lot of time in Grand Turk. This was before Provo became popular. I spent a lot of time in Grand Turk. I've never touched down in Tortola or the U.S. Virgin Islands. I know that's bad. It's coming. I'm coming. And touching down in Tortola is on the agenda because I need to know my roots. But that's my upbringing in a nutshell. I think honestly that I'm very well blended with kind of both my city girl culture and my Caribbean culture. Like, I am that girl from around the way. One minute I could be listening to soca, and the next minute tune into like Bone Thugs and Harmony or Busta Rhymes or something very, very urban, because that's just what I know. So I'm a music head, and everything is just like who I am. Like, there's no one or the other. It's all combined into who Shamir is.
What made you start blogging and vlogging?
So honestly, it was people. To give a backdrop, the very first blog that I had was called Lime and Dine, and it was a blog that I used to document like places that I used to eat at and recommendations. So I gave recommendations for restaurants no matter where I went. So it could have been Barbados, it could have been Grenada, it could have been Turks, Boston, wherever. And I just jotted my comments down there. But it was also a way for me to share recipes that I had, because I cooked a lot and I hosted a lot of limes at my house. And so when I'm having the limes or I'm doing whatever, people would ask me for recipes, or they'll ask me, "Oh, how did you create this?" Because whenever I host something, it's like extra. So I have to go above and beyond and kind of make certain things. So whether I'm making labels or I'm making cups or I'm making something, right? It's not just me hosting food. Like, it's a big, they're usually like little mini productions. But so they would ask me how I do things. And so that's kind of how that started. So then I realized, I was like, well, in the blog now, I'm including a lot of my travels. So that's also another area where I'm teaching about, and people are keep asking me about, you know, certain aspects of my travel experiences. So I'm like, well, let me just put this information in a common place so that I don't have to keep repeating myself, and it can just be there as a resource to people. So I got inspired by all the questions that my friends or whoever just kept asking me. Yeah, it was my friends at that time because I didn't have like any, real business related social media stuff, right? Aside from the Lime and Dime blog. And so I started that blog in like 2012 or something. And that was the same year that I started grad school. And so once like I started grad school, I was like, oh, it's a wrap. I'm not doing anything except this. And so I kind of fell off. And then when I was ending grad school, I was like, classes were getting lighter and lighter. And then I'm like, dang, what the heck am I going to do with all this extra time that I have? And during that time, I also I held back from like my traveling and all of that. So I wasn't doing a lot and I was sacrificing like the travel experiences. I'm like, nope, I can't go there because I have class or, I'm paying for this. And that's not where my responsibility lied at that time. So once the classes started dwindling and I'm like, yo, what am I going to do? And so I was very much wanting to pick up my art again. I wanted to travel again, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I can just turn this this Lime and Dime blog into something else. And so then because I knew that I had other trips on the way, my graduation present to myself was going to St. Martin on one of OH Som's trip and then also going to Grenada. So those were in the works. And I'm like, I can use this as a way to share the experience and kind of help people understand like what to do. And people by that time was my friends again. As the years progressed and technology got better, I'm no longer using like a legit camera. I'm using, my phone and I'm recording and I'm taking pictures. So now all of these can be wrapped into the blogs that I'm writing. And, who doesn't like pictures and videos? Who wouldn't want to see firsthand experience of a carnival or an event that I'm going to go along with the words that I'm writing on these blogs. So that's really how the vlogging started. And then once I kept going to these carnivals and becoming more knowledgeable, I was like, oh, I can actually give some advice from my experiences. So why not? And there really weren't that many people doing it at that time. So I was just like, oh, this is cool. That's fine. Let's go. So that's how the vlogging came about.
So, being an influencer is something that's pretty big right now. Anytime you go onto social media, pretty much you can find an influencer for any type of industry, business, you name it, it's there. What made you want to become an influencer and why Carnival?
Real talk, I didn't even know that I was one. I just woke up one day and I was just like, what the heck is this word everybody keeps using influencer this, influencer that? And I'm like, aren't you just a blogger? Aren't you just a vlogger? Aren't you just on YouTube? Like, oh, so it's influencer now. Okay, I could be that. It sounds fancy. So that's how that happened. I was just like, okay, so I'm gonna just fall into this because it makes sense. And now I don't have to use all these terms. And I wasn't really a fan of the word blogger because I felt like it was just something that people thought was like a hobby type of thing. And I'm like, I feel like I'm more than a blogger. And then the word vlog came out because people are doing videos, and I'm like, I know I do that too. So when I discovered the word influencer, it was like, oh, this makes sense, and it's like everything just combined into one. And I am, yeah, like I've been educating people about Carnival through my experiences, and I chose Carnival because I'm like, this is what I know, right? Like the back of my hand, this is what I know. I didn't need to go to school for it. I did need to spend some money and I did need to go overseas but it's a part of my culture. It's what I know. So that's why Carnival. I think it's because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I love. It's what allows me to be my true self. And I don't really believe in teaching people about things that you don't know. So that's that's why you come, you ask me something about Carnival, I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to answer it. And I don't think that I can say that for anything else. I mean, aside from, maybe what I do as a profession as far as like education, but there's so many different um, portals of education. You know what I mean? There's so many different things that areas in education that you can specialize in, whatever. And I'm not there with everything, but I think I'm there with everything when it comes to Carnival.
Okay, so tell us exactly what is Ting's Nice? What inspired you to start Ting's Nice and where the name come from?
So Ting's Nice honestly started out as a company that I founded specifically to just sell my accessories, to sell my jewelry, to sell the things that I was creating. I didn't anticipate or I didn't even expect for it to kind of be what it is, but because I kept evolving, the company kept evolving. And when I was doing my research to start the business, it was very it was very much recommended that you create a name and a brand that is able to expand, right? That doesn't just put you into one category, right? So I didn't want to be Ting's Nice Accessories. I didn't want to be, you know, I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to just be a blog, even though at the time I didn't really think that far ahead, but I knew that because of because of the way I was and because of my personality, like I transform a lot. So I was like, okay, let me just make it very kind of general. And the one thing that I wanted with the name was I need for people to understand immediately from reading the name that there's some type of Caribbeanness to it. So that's why I took out the H for things. I want Tings. Like everybody, I think for the most part, I think it's understood that when you say Tings, it's there's a Caribbean flair to it. And I just wanted that to be included. And then I also wanted there to be an understanding that what I produce is going to be of quality. So I'm very, I guess people call me humble. So like it wasn't gonna be like Ting's best this or Ting's great that. Like no, like I do nice things. I'm a nice person. I want to create nice whatevers. So I think nice is a was the way to go. And I did have like brainstorming sessions with my friends or whatever, and I had like various names or whatever to kind of play with, and that was the one that was picked. And I remember being that was back when group me was a thing, and group me I was in that chat, my little Bayesian, my crop over group, and I was asking them, what they thought. So that's why Things Nice, and now it has really just evolved into this brand that just embraces Carnival, and I use that as a way to promote the Carnival culture. I use that as a way to educate people about not only Carnival but about how to um, do certain designs. So I'm very heavy into designs. I'm heavy into Carnival education. I'm heavy into just music, lots of things. So it is all kinds of things. And so it's just, I'm just a brand out here promoting the culture. And that's really what Things Nice is.
So you call yourself a carnival veteran. Exactly what does that mean to you?
In my eyes, being a vet means that you have a substantial amount of experience in something. So to be a carnival vet to me means that you have not only attended stateside carnivals, but you've gone overseas and you've attended a number of carnivals in various countries. Sometimes I know people have different definitions of being a carnival vet, but honestly, you are a carnival vet of specific carnivals. And once you once you have an understanding of majority, you can feel your way through to the next one. So yeah, there are Trinidad Carnival vets and there are Jamaican Carnival vets, but if I've never gone to, say, Antigua Carnival, I'm not an Antigua Carnival veteran, but I'm a Carnival veteran overall, and I know that I'd be able to feel my way and make my trip basically as successful as possible, even though I haven't been there. So I think when you're when you're thinking about carnival veterans versus carnival newbies, newbies are still going to be very cautious, and sometimes they're very nervous about how to go about planning their trip. So I think it has to do with your level of comfort. So yeah, if you've gone to Carnival overseas and you have been immersed in the culture and you know what to expect behind the truck, you know what to expect at fete, and there's no longer this feeling of shock and surprise and or whatever, then yeah, you're a vet. You may not be, a 10-year vet. You may not be highly experienced as some other people, but you in there. You're a vet. You've done your service and you qualify for that carnival badge of honor. You in there. You a vet.
So, how many carnivals have you actually been to?
Well, if, it's been a while. It's been a long time. I've been doing this since 2010. And just for clarity, I'm not talking stateside carnivals. This doesn't really include Miami. This doesn't include Boston, Atlanta, nothing like that. I mean, I think the one that I will highlight is like Hollywood Carnival, because that was new. That was a new thing. But um, what I'm about to list and the history that I'm about to give does not include those stateside carnivals. I think it can just be known that for the most part, yeah, I went to those. But when we're talking overseas, when we're talking carnivals in other countries, yeah, I've been doing this since 2010. So August 2020 is going to be my 10-year carniversary. I should have something for that. I should celebrate somehow. So yeah, so the first carnival that I went to was in Barbados. I went to Crop Over in 2010. That was after Bestie, April Eudora, went. She went in 2009 and she came back, and I was just like, oh, I'm learning all these things. I'm just like, so you could just jump in a band like that? Like I thought, for me, I thought that in order to be a part of the band, you had to do rehearsals and that there was just a group thing and it was very exclusive, and it wasn't, I had no idea that you could just jump just so. All you had to do was pay your money. Life changing knowledge, right? So, and of course, like I grew up looking at posters, not even posters. I grew up looking at vinyls. My mother had vinyls, Byron Lee and the Dragoneers, and on one of the covers was people. It was a carnival cover, and I was just like, oh, I would give anything to, be involved in that and to dance and to dance to soca and calypso or whatever. And so now, when you X amount of years later, and you're learning that all you have to do is pay money, I was like, oh, bet. So 2010, I popped my Carnival cherry and I went to BIM for those next years. I went to BIM from 2010 to 2013. Then I started to feel like, okay, I love it here. I love the crop over experience, but I can keep spending my money to come here, but I want to invest my money in other experiences. I want to go to different places. So 2013 was the last time that Barbados saw me, and from then I just kept going, and my goal every year really is to experience a new carnival, experience a different place. And so that's kind of, I think I've been doing that for the most part, or yeah, for the most part I think I've been doing that. So it started off in BIM. 2014, I went to Spice Mass in Grenada. It was amazing. Um, 2015 was my first Trinidad Carnival experience, which was like Oh, it was crazy. So, and then from then in 2015, I went to, I think it was 15. We did Hollywood Carnival, but again, we're not really including those. 2016, I went back to Trinidad, I think because that was the core weekend fell on my birthday. 2016 was my first Jamaica Carnival experience, and I adored that. Oh, that was amazing. 2016 was also the year. This is not Carnival, but it's like Carnival. It's like Carnival on a ship, right? So 2016 was the first Uber Soca cruise, and you and I did that. That was amazing. My ass shouldn't have been going anywhere because I didn't even have a job when I didn't have a job when you kept asking me, and I was just like, nah, I'ma chill. And then you put out that final request, and you were like, "So you really not gonna go?" I was like, "No, no, no, I'm in there. I'm in there. I'm in there." So went to Uber Soca cruise for the first year, and that was life changing. Then 2017, I went back to Jamaica because you just had to go back. It wasn't a one and done thing. Also went back to Uber Soca cruise that year. Then 2018, I don't know why I went back to Jamaica again. I know why. I do. I love JA. I just love being there. It's just I feel like I'm an honorary Jamaican because I love dancehall so much. And it's like there was one point in time where I was just like, I don't know if I like or if I love dancehall more than soca. There was a time when dancehall was ruling in my life and soca wasn't really the thing. And now, so every year or so, like it just changes. But anyway, I digress. But so yeah, 2018, I went to Jamaica. You and I went to Guyana's first carnival in 2018. Then we went to Dominica World Creole Fest. And then when I was in Dominica, I was just like, I need to come back to Dominica for carnival. So that's on the agenda. Haven't done it yet. And then so now this year, I've I've I fall back from Trinidad Carnival overall because I just feel like it's a lot of um of money, but I have found other ways to be in Trinidad around carnival time, but not necessarily for the core weekend. So this year I went to Bacchanal Road for the first time. This year I went to St. Lucia for the first time. And we didn't go on the cruise, right? We didn't go on Uber Soca cruise, but we crashed it because it was in Turks and Caicos. Hello. So I need to be there. And I did Uber Soca Cruise Juve and hosted a brunch in Grand Turk for 30 something of my friends that were on the cruise. So yeah, 10 years in a nutshell. If we're talking numbers, I think I've been to about 12 international carnivals. If you want to count an Uber Soca cruise as a carnival experiences, then you add, then that's 14 of them. If you want to include the stateside carnivals, I guess I've been to like definitely over 20 of them. With 12 of those experiences being international.
Okay, so you are so talented. I mean, you cook, you sew, you make costumes, you do all kinds of things. How did you learn your skills?
Um, let's see. Well, the cooking part, that's easy. The cooking was just me. I love my belly, and I like to fend for myself. So I spent a lot of time in the kitchen just kind of watching my mother, watching my aunts, watching like everybody in Turks who raised me, every woman, every man. Actually, it doesn't even matter, woman or man. Like I just learned from them. Tourism is a big thing, right? And so I had there were a lot of hotels in Grand Turk at one point, and so I had a lot of family members that worked at hotels and restaurants as chefs. So my aunt was a chef, my uncle was a chef, and even if you weren't a chef, you knew how to throw down. That's just how it was. And so I just learned from watching, and then when the internet became a thing, I'm like, oh, let's just do this, and you started putting your own twist on stuff. And so that's just really where that came from, where the cooking part comes from. Is just me loving to eat and loving to experiment. Cooking is an art, just like everything else really. And I am an artsy person, so I just love to create, and cooking gives you that ability. Now, when we're talking design, when we're talking accessory design, really, I had my first glue gun experience when I was 9. I was a Girl Scout in Dorchester. Shout out to Troop 9410. My childhood best friend, Janiyah, her mom was my troop leader, and that's how I met Janiyah, and that's how we became close. That's how I uh, like that whole experience. And it's just amazing like how certain people just impact your life. Like when I met her, that's when roller skating became heavy. That's when Bone Thugs and Harmony became my everything. That's when me realizing how much I love to create, like all of that stuff just spawns from just being introduced to a select group of people. So again, I digress. But yeah, the glue gun, I learned how to use the glue gun, and I learned about glue guns from Girl Scouts. And from then on, it's just been like, okay, well, what else can we do with this thing? What else can we create? So I became obsessed with the DIY channel, and the DIY channel back in the day was very jewelry heavy. So I would just sit there for hours and I would just look at these women making jewelry from like the simplest of things. So then I became obsessed with just crafting. So whether it was doing trying to learn how to latch hook, whether it was using GIMP, whatever it was, I started to create. And the other thing, the drive behind me creating things, is that I love to represent. So I wasn't finding like you can't go in a store and you couldn't find like a bracelet or a keychain or something with my name on it. Like they're not gonna have Shamir on there, but they're gonna have like Jane and Christina, and they're gonna have all these things. And I used to feel away that I couldn't rep who I was. And so I just started making this stuff that allowed me to represent who I was. I damn sure wasn't going to go to, like, I would go to Boston Carnival, and I would look at the vendors, right? And I'd be trying to find a Turks and Caicos flag, and I could not find it for the life of me. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to make my own flag stuff. I got to make my own flag jewelry. And that's how that started. So it was me getting taught by DIY TV. I taught myself a lot through whatever I could find on certain topics. So I did, I gave up at one point because I was trying to use a specific medium, and which was resin. And resin is basically the mixing of it's two chemicals mixed together to create like this hard plastic. And because the ratio had to be perfect, like I remember being in Boston after graduating from college and trying to perfect how I use this thing, and it was not working. And I was like, you know what, F it. And I tossed it to the side. And I didn't pick that back up until, I remember I was talking about grad school earlier. I didn't pick that back up until after grad school, which was 2014. And I was like, you know what, let me try this again. Let me try this thing again, because now there were more resources online. There were books about resin now, and I was like, okay, let me pick up some stuff. Let me see if I can master this, right? And now YouTube was a thing, so I was like, okay, now I can refer to YouTube. Like it was just so much more. The art world, the design world had evolved so much in 7 years that I was like, okay, I think I got this. And so I picked it back up. I got the supplies. I mixed it together. I tried a ting. I was like, oh shoot, it worked. I was like, oh my God, it worked. And then from there, I just kind of went with it. And so I was just being taught by whatever was out there in the world. And then from whatever I gathered and becoming like an expert in it, and then I was able to just do my own thing and manipulate it. The same thing happened um, with designing carnival accessories. Like some things I put together myself. Like I knew how to do design boots or whatever, and I would design for myself, and then my friends would be like, "Oh, those are dope. Can you do some for me?" And then that's how like my friends became my first clients. And then it got scary when I started designing for people that I didn't know, and then I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I got into the whole wire bra thing and wire bending overall, which again I taught myself. There weren't online tutorials anywhere back like 10 years ago telling you how to make a wire bra. There wasn't anybody telling you how to make tiaras or backpacks or whatever. It was just, it took me going to Hollywood Carnival, getting my first wire bra from that Anya Youngchi section. And then when I came back from Hollywood Carnival, I took it apart. I was like, I need to see what's under here because I need to see how this is made. And at the time, it wasn't even for me to profit from. It was just so that I can make my own stuff the next time that I wanted to go to a carnival or something. Because for me, every time that I went to a carnival, I didn't necessarily want to play mass. Like if I went for the first year, then yes, I'm gonna play mass because I want the full experience. But if I'm going back a second time, I don't necessarily need to play mass. You know what I mean? So I took it apart. I saw how it was made, and I was like, okay, now what do I need to replicate this as best as I could? And so it took me looking up like soldering, and I was researching like just technical things, right? Electrician type stuff. Like, okay, what do I need for this? And I spent so much time in like places like Home Depot or whatever, and it just became me doing what I could to make the best out of whatever. And once I felt like I had it down, I was like, all right, this is cool. And I'm gonna just start doing it. And so I started making them. I started wearing them myself. And then I started like making them for friends like you. And I was like, okay, well, tell me how it is. Like, tell me, does it hold up? Is it whatever? Did something break? Did whatever? And that was it. I taught myself anything that's like a carnival accessory, a tiara, a wire bra, a backpack. I taught myself because I would make sure to just purchase whatever it is that I wanted to learn how to make. And then when I got back stateside and back in the house, back in the lab, I just took it apart and learned. I was like, oh, I got you. This is it. Boom. And so that's how I learned that. The way that I learned how to do this podcasting thing, I just went, you go on YouTube, you're like, oh, okay, what do I need to start this? What do I need to do X, Y, and Z? And that's just what I did. I didn't have any teachers. Sewing, I don't consider myself a seamstress. I will sew for myself because like I'm okay with certain imperfections for myself. And there was a moment, I think 2017, there was this moment I had like a hardcore sewing, or maybe it was 16. I don't remember, but I had a lot of clients. Y'all were there. Y'all held me down in 2017 when it came to designing and trusting the sewing skills. And I'm not there yet. I'm still not where I want to be when it comes to sewing. But even that, I just told my mother one year, she was like, what do you want for Christmas? I was like, I think I want a sewing machine, but I want like a sewing machine that's great for beginners. And I work in education. So I had a colleague who knew her way around a sewing machine, and I brought my sewing machine to work, and we had several sessions, and she just taught me like the basics of how to use it. From there I went to YouTube. I followed this girl who was showing you how to, or was showing viewers how to make patterns off of clothes that you already had, which I was amazing to me because I tried getting a sewing pattern and I looked at it and it looks so weird and there's so many numbers and there's so many drawings. I'm like, this is confusing AF. And so because I was able to have that YouTube video of how to replicate things from pieces that you already had, I was in heaven. I was like, this is it. Boom, let's go. I didn't pay for classes really in anything. I didn't, I downloaded some some lessons from Crafty and from Beeducation and places like that. But for the most part, it was trial and error designing. And I'm glad that I did it because I wouldn't be where I am. And now I have the opportunity to teach others how to do things. So I have that online platform and I have live classes on how to make wire bras and how to make, different carnival accessories. And so, but like education is like that, that's That's what I know. So that didn't come new to me. So being in front of people and teaching them things as an educator, like that wasn't something that came new to me, but it's like now you're able to, I just love how I'm able to intertwine everything that I do into this carnival life. So I'm able to take my educator my educator hat and put it into carnival. I'm able to take my administrator hat and put it into carnival. I'm able to take the love of music, my love of design, my love of cooking, and put it into this carnival hat, and share with the world. So that, yeah, all of this is Shamir learned how to do all that stuff her own with a little help from the internets.
So, because you have all those skills and you've been doing them for some time, what made you want to put those on the table and start actually designing and creating things for other people?
Yeah, so as I touched on before, I didn't really want to do that. It was kind of just my rationale behind wanting to design was just for me, like was for my benefit. It wasn't until friends started asking me to make things for them, right? And then it would be somebody that they know that would ask them where they got that, and they would link them to me. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm having clients that I don't really know and building relationships from strangers. And then it became when I started um, really publishing or going to carnivals and I'm wearing something that I've created, it became a okay, no, you're getting this feeling that it needs to be bigger than what it is. So that's where that really came from. It just came from word of mouth.
So, right now, we want to touch on a serious matter. You know, you've been very open about the struggles with health issues that you had recently over the past year. You underwent a surgery, you are currently recovering, but throughout the entire process that you've been open to your followers, you've seemed to be so positive. How have you managed to maintain such a positive outlook?
Mm, yeah. So, as a backdrop for people who may be listening that haven't been following me, I use like Instagram is like my social media home base. So basically, as a quick recap of what took place in May of 2019, I was diagnosed with what's called DCIS, which is was stage 0 DCIS, which is really a form of breast cancer. And so fast forward through, all of that, I went to like St. Lucia with all of that, knowing all of that. I went through like there was a lot of things that I did and went through while navigating this new diagnosis, right? So in September of 2019, on September 23rd, I had a mastectomy. So that means like they took out my boob, my left boob. They took that off, and it was a nipple sparing mastectomy. So that meant that like my nipple was able to be kept in place. So during the surgery, they found that actually a portion of the cancer had escaped outside of the milk ducts, and basically that made the diagnosis had like upgraded to stage 1 breast cancer, but they took it all out, right? So now fast forward, I'm still, yeah, what month are we in? We're in December, and so I'm still in recovery. Like it's going to be a good 6 months before I'm fully healed, but I still have to have a procedure in January for my permanent implant. Right now, I have what's called like an expander. Sorry if this is too much information, but just giving you a recap of what took place. And I shared this with my followers, and I didn't share it I wasn't trying to get pity stories or anything like that. I was trying to, and I'm still trying to just educate people on the importance of health and the importance, especially with women, the importance of getting mammograms and getting checked, because you just never know what's going on in your body. And if you can do like little things like doing your self exams and whatnot, then you can kind of get ahead of the game. And I'm very, very, very blessed that I caught this thing super early. So I always had a lump in my boob, and I've had that there since I was 17. And so, I just kept, I always do stuff that I'm laying down or whatever, I'll check myself. And so I just realized, I was just like, oh, it doesn't feel the same. Like it feels more uncomfortable. It felt like heavier than normal. And I was going through the process of looking for a new OBGYN since I had relocated to New York. And I told her about what I was feeling. It could have just been in my head, but she scheduled me to get a mammo. And I had done them before because, again, there's this lump that has always been there. So fast forward, and they noticed something on the mammo. So then I had to get an ultrasound, and then I had to get a biopsy, and then they confirmed what it was. So it's just like, it wasn't even the lump. It wasn't even the lump that was already in there that was cancerous. It was other things that they spotted on my boob. So it's just like, had I not listened to my instincts and mentioned that to her, I would have just still been out here just chilling, with this thing that would have grown. So I'm blessed that it was stage 0 at the time, and then that it was only stage 1, and that it could be handled accordingly. So um I guess just to talk about the positivity aspect, I don't know, like that's just how I am. One of my favorite phrases is, or common phrases that I use, like, it's not that serious. Once I knew that, okay, I'm like, okay, stage 0, okay, well, stage 1, okay, I'm not gonna die. You got it out. I understand that there are some things moving forward like that are forever life changing, but I'm here. And I think it was important for me to stay positive throughout the whole thing because I needed other people to stay positive. Whew, trying not to get emotional. But it was important for me to stay positive because I knew that if I was a mess, then my loved ones were going to be a mess. And I don't have time for that. I don't want to see them like that. So it's not that I was putting up a front, but like that's just how I am. I'm just a very positive person. Like I understand that shit happens in life. I understand that things change. Like, and I already knew, like, okay, you're human. Getting through this life, like something's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like something's going to, it's very rare that there isn't that something that's going to be wrong with me. You know what I mean? Like there's a likelihood that something is going to happen. There's going to be some type of health, whatever that occurs. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is my thing. Not that I was anticipating it, but again, I'm being real. Like I'm human. Shit happens. Health happens. You don't know what's going on inside your body, but it's up to you to do the checks and to do the work to make sure that you're staying on top of it to avoid whatever it is that may come. And it's important to know what your family history is. And if you know that high blood pressure runs in your family, then you need to do what you can to avoid it. So granted that this wasn't something that ran in the family, but it's like I I caught it, and I can't be mad. I'm not going to be upset. Like it was very much inconvenient. There were a lot of doctor's appointments that I had to have. There was money that needed to be spent on travels. It took a lot. It was a lot of mental and emotional energy and physical energy. But to say that I was down, it was not so much. And when I kept getting reports on, how things were going and progressing, and they kept coming back like with positive outcomes, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to rock with this. I understand that, okay, in the future, when I become a mother, that, I'm not going to be able to breastfeed from my left breast. Okay, I'll deal with that. But I still got a right one. I still have a right boob, and I'm still going to be able to do this. Okay, if it comes back and the results come back a certain way, then okay, I'll deal with, what the other options are. And I kind of look ahead and I was like, okay, so if I can't have children, then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll adopt someone. And then that way create a better life for that person in that situation. Like I just feel like there are always avenues and opportunities, and there's going to be a way for you to live life. And at the end of the day, honestly, I was just like, okay, and if I'm not able to do this because the diagnosis impacts fertility or what have you, then I'm a I guess I'm gonna be doing this carnival thing for a lot longer than I planned, because now I don't have that money that I was going to put towards being a mother, right? But that wasn't really a thing. So the positive aspect is just, I can't say how I was able to do that, because that's just who I am. I'm a naturally a positive person, and I kind of make contingency plans regardless. I don't know. That's just how I am. I think it takes a lot to really get me in a bad place or in a negative place. It's very rare. I don't even think it really happens. But I just, my outlook is like, there's always a way, like, and there's always a blessing somewhere. And so from this, I'm able to now educate. And if you even knew the amount of love, not even love, but just the the information that came in my inbox that other women were going through, and you wouldn't even have an idea that they went through that. Or the people that come in my inbox talking about, like, I have each one of my sisters or each one of my father's sisters passed away because of breast cancer, and I have been scared to go to the doctor to get the results or to even get a mammogram, because that person was fearful of what the results could be. And I'm just like, you no, I need you to go and find out, because that way you can get ahead of the game and learn what's going on inside of your body, and do your best to enhance and extend your life. Right. So it was like a lot of those. And I'm like, and this is why I'm sharing this story, because a lot of people, a lot of Caribbean people, and men as well, they don't they don't do the work. They don't do the health work. And so that is why I chose to be very vocal and verbal about what I was going through. And I kept people abreast of like every step of what was happening, because I felt like that was important. Like, it's not something that I was ashamed of. I'm like, this is life. Like, shit is happening. And, this is the reason why you're not seeing me on IG like this with content or whatever, is because I'm going through this shit, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing what's best for me. So it was a lot. And again, I'm really always this positive and always with this outlook. Like, I refuse to be down on myself about whatever. I'm going to use it, and I'm going to use it as ammunition to be better and to live a better life, as best as I can. Like, we gonna ride this shit. We gonna ride it out until we can't ride it out anymore.
So, for anyone that's been following you for quite some time, I think there's this lingering question that everybody is kind of dying to know what the answer is. And that's about your booty, your bamsi, your backside, whatever you decide to call it. The people want to know, did you always have that booty? And if not, share the secret. Tell us how.
I hate y'all. I hate y'all. I know I said get silly with the questions, but I wasn't ready for this. Anyway, um, in short, no, I did not always have the Bamsi. Okay, I didn't have it. I actually suffered from no acetol syndrome back in the day, and I used to get teased in like high school and middle school because I didn't have a bootay, a Bamsi. So no, I didn't always have it. I don't know where it came from. No, I literally used to wrap my sweaters or wrap whatever it is that I had around my butt, because I didn't want people to look at it. Like, I had to walk home from school. And so you would get that, oh, oh, you're pretty for a dark skinned girl kind of thing. And you see people checking you out. And then you're like dreading the part where you're walking by a group of dudes and you know that they're going to turn around and look at and I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't want it. I don't want it. So Nope, didn't always have it. I don't really know when. I think it started coming in adulthood, like honestly around 2010. I'm like, just be patient. Just be patient. It's coming. It's coming. I didn't really think that, but just trying to be positive. And I started to, like in 2010, I put on a lot of weight. Like I was like 160. And well, it was a lot of weight for what I was used to. Like my normal, like I think high school, college, my weight was like 120, right? And so I was just like the skinny chick. And then when I moved to Jersey, I had yeah, I put on weight, and then I was just like, okay, I liked it. I was like, what thick. So I started shout out to Billy Blanks, yo. Shout out to Billy Blanks because when I tell you I killed that Taibo instructional video, like I didn't even use like I had the other cassette tapes. Yeah, VHS baby. I had the other tapes, not cassette. I had the other VHS tapes and I would try them. I was like, no, 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 this is too advanced. Like this is too much. I'm gonna just stick with this instructional one. So the instructional one had a lot of um routines that um worked on the core, like not the core, that worked on like the glutes. So I really feel like Billy Blanks had a lot to do with that because I would do that like every morning before going to work. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But since then and since I realized that, I was like, "Oh my god, I have it. There's something here now. Now you got to take care of it." So, yeah, when I'm in the gym, I focus on that. I focus on, a lot of things, but like I just try to maintain that. Because of the surgery, I done fell off a little bit, but it's coming back. It's coming back. Everything's coming back. Boom. But y'all are dumb.
Okay, so this is Nice-ish. It's your brand new baby, your new podcast. What kind of segments are you planning on having? And for your listeners, what can they expect every time they tune into Nice-ish?
So I don't really do anything without gathering input from my loyal followers, right? So I always have to work off of what the people want. So I created 3 segments that my listeners basically can always look forward to hearing when they tune into Nice-ish. And so the first one is I'm calling it movementation. And it's all off of they're really all off of like soca songs. So when you have that song it goes movementation. So movementation is really giving listeners the opportunity to get the inside scoop on my movements for the previous month. And they can really have an opportunity to find out whether or not I was a hermit that month or whether I was a hot foot. So if you have been following for a while, you know that I know I travel every couple of months or whatever, but I love to be at home. I love to be in the house. I love to be lounging. You can almost always, and people like to joke because I am an old soul, but like I'm gonna be at home watching Murder She Wrote, Columbo, Matlock, In the Heat of the Night, whatever. Like that is my happy place when I'm not going anywhere. So that is one of them. The other segment is called Trending Tingz. Trending. A trending, like Shawn Marshall. So it's basically a segment where I'm gonna share everything that's popping in the carnival world. So that could be a fete, it could be music, it could be fashion, of course, it could be a carnival. So I'm going to talk about the things that are hot in the chats, right? And then another section that I'll have is called What You Want, and that's sparked from the Destra Garcia song, What You Want, What You Want, What You Want, What You Want, What You Want with me. That was my joint. So that is, What You Want is a section that is going to be an opportunity for the listeners to connect and ask questions, right? Similar to how we had this episode, but they'll be able to ask questions about Carnival, or even they can state concerns that they may have, giving people an opportunity to just be involved in the podcast. And then of course we're going to have whatever the topic is for that day. So the goal is always to definitely include experts, right, from the carnival world on the podcast. And there will be some where it will just be me talking to you. But a lot of times I am going to have guests on the show, and I want other people's voices to be heard. I want to give recognition to other influencers to get their name out there. I think it's Carnival is, again, a culture, and you can't have a culture with just one person, right? There needs to be other people involved. There is a whole carnival village, a whole community. There are different groups, there are different things going on, and people doing so much that it needs to be heard, and we need to educate. Like, I can't do that by myself, so that's why I always want to have people on the show with me. So I am so excited about this because I can't put all this in a blog, right? People in the day and age that we are living right now, we're about to go into a new decade. And people don't have the patience to read. It's kind of inconvenient, at times, but I feel like having this podcast now gives people an opportunity to listen on the go, right? And I'm not saying that my blog is going to go anywhere, and I am going to streamline and kind of revamp the way that I produce content, but this podcast really is an opportunity for me to expand on the information that I give, because I don't want to keep giving nuggets. I want people to truly, truly, truly be educated and learn ways to be successful and in planning for Carnival and in going about it, but also really learn about the Caribbean culture and what and what we're all about. I think that's important. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. I thank you so much for interviewing me and taking the time out to do that. So shout out to Melissa Rose Cooper. Shout out to everybody who took the time out to listen to this pre-launch episode of Nice-ish. And we'll be back on January 1st for that new year of 2020. Nice-ish is your one-stop spot to get all the information you need to be successful in this carnival-loving lifestyle. You'll be filled with knowledge and getting updates from professionals in the field of Bacchanal, like myself. So stay plugged in to all Tingz Nice by subscribing to this podcast, the website, tingznice.com, and following me, Sha, at Tingz Nice on all social media platforms. If you ever have questions about anything we discuss on the show, be sure to hit me up at info@tingznice.com. And remember, sharing is caring, so please pass this podcast on to anyone you believe will benefit from the information. As the Talk Silent people say, I'ma check you all later.